Dickey here, and I've got a video I've got set up on the screen for you, and I'm not going to play it, but if you have a chance, go ahead and listen to it. But Dave has a caller calls in and wants to know if he should do a Roth conversion, and wanted to kind of address that. I've got a lot of questions from my clients about whether they should do a Roth conversion or not, and what it is, and so forth. So, wanted to kind of delve into this a little bit. Now, this gentleman is 65 years old. He has a 62-year-old wife, which he makes a comment in there that he had her retire. I know that wouldn't go well in my household because my wife wouldn't go very well if I told her to retire, but I don't know that that's what he meant, and not kind of my point. But anyway, what he's talking about as far as the retirement for him is that they have $600,000. They have their house paid for, which is fantastic, and I'm glad that they do, and have it paid off at 65, and he's not ready to retire. And that happens a lot, where we've got some people that like what they do and they don't want to retire, so they don't need to retire. Now, what he's saying in here is that he wants to do a Roth conversion, and someone has recommended to him. Now, Dave makes a really good point that, there's kind of goods and bads to it. He doesn't go into a lot of detail with it, which I wish he would have gone into a little more detail, because there are a couple of issues with doing this. Now, if he doesn't have a Roth right away or already, and that can be an issue, but one of the things I have a disagreement with Dave on is he sits back and says that financial advisors hate Roth IRAs. Well, I am a financial advisor and I love Roth IRAs. And I know a lot of advisors that do, and I know a lot of the companies that I had worked for in the past and or know people that work for actually like Roth IRAs. So I'm not exactly sure why he thinks there's a problem with Roth IRAs. He does make a comment about Roth IRAs after age 55. And I do know that one of the issues with Roth IRAs that a lot of advisors deal with on that, and I'm going to go over here and to show you. So, keep that in mind when we have people that are trying to retire at 59 and a half or 60, and, they're 55 years old and they don't have the Roth open yet, it can be an issue. So, I mean, I know that's one of them. I know it's one of the issues that some of the other advisors that I know of have dealt with in the past. So, keep that in mind when you're talking about doing a Roth conversion for an IRA or a 401k that you have. But in this particular situation, what he's talking about is maybe never even needing this money, and which is fine. But I wish Dave would ask this question on these shows: is what does he want the money for? Because honestly, it's one of the biggest and best questions that we don't ask on this. And I wish we would, and I wish he would, because on multiple of these videos that I've talked about, he just doesn't dig deep enough. And honestly, you don't have to sit for an hour and do it. He could just simply ask the question, what do you want the money for? I mean, if this is just money the guy wants to transfer down to his kids, okay, that's one answer. Another answer is if he's planning to use it for retirement income when he does retire down the road, which, he's 65, maybe he doesn't retire till 85. I mean, who knows? But the point is, what's the money for? Because if he's never going to use this money, it changes in my mind what you do with the money, and whether you put it into a Roth or you don't. And as an example, it really comes down to taxes. I mean, if all you're really trying to do is pay less in taxes, let's take a look at it, because there have been some times when I've had people ask me about this, and I've done some spreadsheets, and this one I want to point up here first, because this is the first way I would look at it on the tax situation. Now, the guy says that he's in the 22% tax bracket. Now, we didn't ask this question, so we don't know what his actual income is. So I'm making the assumption that it's at least $83,550. And let's just say that's the bottom. Okay. And that's where he's at. What I did is I went back and said, okay, this is what it would be if we actually did this all in one lump sum. Because there's the other issue here, is that if we do the Roth conversion, you can do it in 1 year. And if he does, in this particular case, he's going to have $174,000 worth of taxes based upon the tax rules. And again, I need to say this right up front. I am not a tax advisor. I am not a tax planner. I don't pretend to be by any stretch. I'm just running these numbers off of some tax tables that I've found on the websites for, IRS with this is where I'm taking it from. Again, not trying to go crazy with any of this stuff, but this is just a rough and tough look at the numbers. So if you did it all in one lump sum, roughly this. Now, please understand, if you take out $600,000 out of an IRA, you may end up having alternative minimum tax. There might be other tax consequences. This is just off the tax table, so it could be worse than this, okay? This is kind of the best case scenario here, because again, you also have your other income. But if you did it all in 1 year, And I did a spreadsheet for this, and it's a simple one. Now, I did this for the full term for a couple reasons. Now, I do understand that he's not going to go from 65 to 90 and never take any money out of this. But the point is, we have people that do this that are 30. Okay. So this could work for them at age 30. So I'm doing this as to give a good example of what's going on here. So in this particular case, if he put the money in, if he just leaves it in and gets an 8% return, and I know Dave says 12, it doesn't matter what number you put in here, guys. Okay. Bottom line is at age 90, he's going to have $4.1 million versus having 2.9 million in the Roth. Again, this is just simple math, folks. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not making assertions or anything. This is basically. So if you're 30 years old and you go into this, this is what you're looking for. So again, you're paying less in taxes, but you're also not gaining as much either. Just keep that in mind. I kind of highlighted these. You're down 1.2 million because you didn't let it grow. Okay. And yeah, okay, you save some taxes, but I'm not telling you to do one thing or the other. I'm saying run the numbers. You should always sit back and say, what is it going to do to me in my tax situation, in my situation? I mean, here's a very clear one. You can save $170,000, but you're missing 1.2 million. Again, just looking at it the other side. Now, I also ran the numbers if you were taking out RMDs. And again, this is a generic study, guys. This isn't a tax deal, but if at age 73, which there's other videos out there, but the Secure Act says going forward, it's 73, not 72. So he's going to have to start taking his RMDs out here. And all I'm saying is if you take the RMD and you don't need the money, okay, if he's planning to use it for income, whatever, that's a whole nother deal because it changes all these scenarios. But if the case is he's just going to pass this down to his kids and he's just trying to get it to grow, you start taking the RMD out, which this is the RMD schedule. And again, I got this off of the main website from the IRS publication. This is it. Started at age 73. Now that might change, but I'm using the numbers I've got. Okay. And if I look at the number, it's really quite simple. You're going to have 1.6 million in the IRA. And I'm suggesting you just put this in a joint account with you and your spouse. You're going to have 2.2 million there, and you're going to have 2.9 million here, which is a deficit of almost $1 million. And you've already paid taxes. So again, not suggesting you do the Roth. I'm not suggesting you don't do the Roth. It all depends on when you're trying to pull this money out, which Dave was very clear about with this guy and what he's going to do. But there are some people out there that just live and die by these IRA or these Roth IRA conversions, that they're just the greatest thing. And again, they might or may not be. Get a financial advisor, get a CPA, run the numbers. And what the numbers are going to do for you is the best thing for you. It's not about calling on a call show or listening to me or anybody else. Do what's best for you. It's really that simple. And I always continue to say, run the numbers. Now, the other option is to do this if you do it over a course of years, which was a suggestion that Dave had on the show. And I ran those too. So basically what I did is I said, if we go back to the tax and just say, okay, let's keep it in the 22% tax bracket so we're not going up. The max he could put in would be $96,000, which means if he takes out the tax of the 22%, he's going to have $73,738 to reinvest into the Roth each year. Okay, so this is it. So all I did was say, we run this number the way we wanted, pulling it out of here, and we run it here. So at the end of the time, you're still going to be at 3.2 million versus what you could have over here. So again, there's different ways to do it. I mean, you can sit back and say, well, what if I took 5% out? What if my taxes down the road? What if this? And again, there's a lot of what if scenarios. All I'm saying is it's not that simple. And Dave kind of simplifies it, and I don't appreciate that. I wish he would ask a few more questions because it would, in my opinion, give him a better answer. The answer he got is he doesn't really know still. And the answer is yes, maybe, no, possibly, could be. And I never have liked those answers. So ask a couple more questions, Dave. Ask him what he wants to do with the money. Because, there's another question here. What if this money is just going down to his kids and grandkids? Okay. And if you're planning to pay the taxes on it, okay, well, why are we not giving the money to them now? And again, I'm not being a proponent of this, but if he doesn't give it to his kids, and the whole point is give it to your kids, and you're 95 years old when you die, and your kids are 75 years old, how is it helping them? Now, again, I'm not saying you have to. Personally, I'm going to try to spend all my money and whatever happens to be left, my kids get. Okay. Yeah. Granted, it goes to my wife first, but regardless, the two of us are going to try to spend all this if we can, because my job is not to make my kids wealthy. That's not my thing. I mean, we want to enjoy life, but we didn't ask that question here. And, Dave keeps saying that he continues to put more money into Roth, into Roth, into Roth. I mean, that's great. If you make too much money, you literally can't put money into Roth unless you're using a backdoor Roth, which again, if you're using a backdoor Roth, that's great. But again, none of these are simple answers. Talk to an advisor, talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, talk to your CPA, more importantly, to make sure that you're not going to get yourself into a tax bind. That is utmost importance on all of this stuff. But most importantly, do what's best for you. I want you to be able to retire when you want to retire and how you want to retire, and build a team that's going to help you get there. If this helps you, that's great. Don't just take it on faith that the best thing to do is to do a Roth IRA conversion, because it may not be. Dickey out.